Did you know using your browser in incognito mode doesn't actually protect your privacy? Take back your privacy with IPVanish VPN. Just one tap and all your data, passwords, communications, browsing history, and more will be instantly protected. IPVanish makes you virtually invisible online. Use IPVanish on all your devices, anytime you go online at home and especially on public Wi-Fi. Get IPVanish now for 70% off a yearly plan with this exclusive offer at ipvanish.com/audio.
Robots Radio. Games. Lore. Stories. Community. Just press play. This show is brought to you by our patrons at patreon.com/Elder Scrolls Lorecast.
Robots Radio presents The Elder Scrolls Lorecast.
Welcome to the Elder Scrolls Lorecast, a place where the Elder Scrolls community can come together to discuss the boundaries of our knowledge about the universe of the Elder Scrolls. All right, adventurers, welcome back. I am your host, Tom or Robots, and I am here, as usual, with my wonderful companion. What kind of companions on this adventure, right?
Yeah,
the adventure of life. Lotus of Doom.
Aww.
How's it going, buddy?
It's going pretty well.
Nice. Yeah, so it's kind of a regular Thursday night around here, just kind of doing the Thursday night thing, streaming live on twitch.tv/robotsradio, 10 p.m. Eastern, 7 p.m. Pacific. And we're back this week to talk about something that Lotus and I were discussing. We think is a really cool topic because I haven't covered it yet on the show. And it's probably going to have a lot to do with some of the stuff coming out soon in the new storyline expansion for the Elder Scrolls Online. And that specific topic is the Reach and the Reachmen, the people who live there. So Lotus, what do we know about the Reach? Where is the Reach?
So the Reach is to the western side of Skyrim, kind of bordering on going into the eastern side of High Rock. It's that little region there. It's almost like there's a map on the video version.
It's amazing. Yeah, I've been playing with for those of you listening to the audio version of this, I've been playing with the new NVIDIA broadcast thing, and I'm actually have a map behind me in quotes of Skyrim, and you can see up on the map that it is right there. It's highlighted in the map, and it includes Markarth, which happens to be the title of the next expansion.
Yes, which to that note, I would just like to say great improvement, in my opinion, on the naming, where it's just now the region name as opposed to Dark Storm, I believe it was, or whatever it was prior to. I like the region name much better. And even though it's, fits the theme, it's just like, okay, I prefer a little more variety. So the fact that we're just going to the Reach, I feel like is very fitting as well to Skyrim and all of the stuff.
I think it's a wise choice to name the location. Like, had Greymore been called something like, what's the major city? Solitude.
Solitude, yeah.
Had it been called Solitude or something like that, that may have been interesting. It also may have played into the story in the events. Like, there's certain elements of feeling alone and things. You could have played that into the story a little bit. Mm-hmm. But yeah, this idea that we're going to Markarth, and everybody who's played Skyrim has been to Markarth. We know what's going on in Markarth, at least in the 4th era, but we don't necessarily know what's going on in Markarth in the 2nd era. And spoilers, it has to do with Reachmen, most likely, because that's the realm that we're in. This is the part of the world that we're in. And I love this. Lotus, we get these little bits of detail of these, I don't know what to call them. You have they're almost like nation states with like realms in them. You got like Skyrim as a whole. You've got Cyrodiil as a whole, but then you have these other little zones within them.
Yeah, there's obviously there's the like province thing, and then it's subdivided into the holds, and each of the holds I feel is pretty unique in Skyrim and the region around it. The hold system they have is pretty cool, to be fair. I like them, and they get pretty diverse depending upon whether you're in the Rift or whether you're in Markarth or whether you're in Winterhold, because even though the whole region is known for being cold and northern and stuff like that, the Rift has got the autumn feel to it. Falkreath has kind of almost like the spring vibe to it. And then, the further north you go, if you go to Windhelm or Winterhold, it's just like a barren snowfield and all of that. So there's some good variety even within the overarch. I feel like it's all of New England condensed into one zone. So
yeah, I guess you could say that. Yeah. Overall, you can tell it's cold everywhere, but some of it looks less cold than other places. Yeah. So the Reach is interesting because it borders on High Rock and the other zones that kind of butt up against to the western side of Skyrim. Mm-hmm. And there are peoples in this area who define themselves by their history, which most people do. But this group of people call themselves the Reachmen, and they don't see themselves as being Nords, and they don't see themselves as being Bretons. They see themselves as a separate, distinct group of people. Yep. And they're known as the Witchmen of High Rock. They're a tribal race of humans who inhabit the Reach in southwestern Skyrim, and also the western Reach in the east part of High Rock. The Reach is actually a little bit more substantial than just the parts of Skyrim that we've been able to visit so far. One of the side notes on this is that I'm fully expecting that the map will include some of these areas in the ESO expansion. We haven't seen it yet. We don't know exactly how that's going to work, but it should fit right into the zones. And I don't have the Elder Scrolls Online map. I was looking for one to really show a representation of where it might be. But actually, you know what? I have this. I'm going to pull up one for people who are watching on stream. And you can see in this one that at the top here, this is representative of the area that we were able to go to in Greymoor near Solitude. So, and this is actually inlaid over top of the Skyrim map. So it's kind of a mix of the two. They're not they don't perfectly fit on top of each other. But if you look here in this lower section, I feel like a weathercaster.
I was about to say, I feel like you're talking about the coastal storm coming from northern High Rock into the Reach.
Yeah. So this is the region over here down below that area that we are most likely going to be going into. The other thing that's noteworthy about this is it leaves the complete middle area. There's like a middle column of Skyrim that is just completely unvisited in Elder Scrolls Online still.
Yes.
So who knows what they're going to do with that in the future?
Yeah, I don't know how they're going to decide on doing something with that. That is kind of strange that there's going to just be a column's kind of a good way to put it. It's just like this swath of map right across the middle. They're like, yeah, this is still undefined, I guess, which is strange with a Greymoor, like very Skyrim focused year involving Greymoor, and we're going to end the Skyrim season and it's still not going to be complete. That's a little peculiar. Although they fleshed out a lot of what's under Skyrim, which we did not really understand prior, just how big Blackreach really is. And they fleshed that out and made that very cool underneath.
Right. Well, one of the things that I've heard a lot of people talk about is Whiterun. And when they were talking about we're going back to Skyrim, a lot of people were like, oh, good, we get to go see Whiterun again, because, of course, everybody remembers Whiterun. It's a very important hold in the story as you play through Skyrim. So it gives them opportunity to, are they going to extend it into a second year? Are they going to come back a few years from now and go back to Skyrim again and flesh out these other zones? So we don't really know exactly yet what's going to happen with that. But I do like that we are getting the Reach. The Reach, as I noted on the previous episode, was one of the areas that I was predicting was going to be coming into the events. So let's go into some of the people and what they're like. The Reachmen are very tribal, and you guys will remember them from Skyrim, the Briarhearts, the Hagravens, the clothes that you get from the Reach. They have oftentimes they have antlers and deer heads and skins and furs and those kinds of things on their bodies. They use bones and they seem very primitive. The other groups in that region who have taken over that region over time, whether they were the Imperials or the Nords, have often considered them a nuisance. They're very much against siding with anybody who's not them, anyone who's other. So even though they get conquered, they tend to still kind of keep to themselves and keep their culture going. You have any other things you want to throw in there?
No, they are. I mean, that so far that's pretty much exactly my take on it. They're almost like an elusive third faction in this whole. Whenever there's a controversy going on between, Eastern Skyrim and Western Skyrim, or later on, it's the Nords and the Imperials. They're never picking a sides. It doesn't seem like they're always just, we're here, we're the Reachmen. Like, it doesn't matter what your issue is, because we should trump both of your issues and just take over. So right. They're always just kind of like a floater wild card, regardless of what dispute is currently going on, usually over land and stuff like that.
Yeah. So I'm going to quote some of the stuff in here. They're also known for their hedge magic. And here's the thing is that they constantly are underestimated. They are not unintelligent. They are not incapable of things. They are not without magical prowess. They originally evolved from the Bretons. They are, of Breton stock. Of course, they've, mingled with the Nords and of course, all the complexity that comes with that. So that means that they have, at least some of them have a very high natural magical prowess. That's why they're considered the Witchmen of High Rock. Some Reachmen mages are known to wield magic, which they can use to poison or corrupt nature. They're also said to have learned to control beast folk magic, a wild hedge wizard, which is often described as primitive, or hedge wizardry, which is described as primitive. And it's almost like it's described as primitive because it's more nature focused, and it has to do with the beast folk who everybody looks down on. But that doesn't mean it's any less sophisticated. It's still powerful magic. It's just not focused on illusory magic or, the things that high elves would value.
I guess it's just less organized. So people like, it's like, oh, this isn't in a textbook, so I'm going to just downplay it as something that's not as refined, which sounds very Sigic Order / Altmer style. So I guess it just plays into that even more.
Yeah. It's like if you don't put it in a bunch of books in a fancy library in a marble building, then it's not considered to be as good a style of magic as something else. They're known for being involved with like the weird covens. You go through some of these zones in Elder Scrolls Online, and you have to deal with the weird covens and the weird trees and those kinds of things. There's the Hagfeather Coven, the Rime Rock Weird, and the Markarth Sisters. They're known to have close relations with the Reachmen and their magic. So there's some connections there to some of these, I guess what you consider more like stylistically witchy coven type parts of their culture. Which, of course,
to be fair, the Warden class in ESO fits very much into that whole vibe as well. Weird, by the way, being WYRD as opposed to they're just weird because of where they are. So but that the class that was added back with the Morrowind expansion in Elder Scrolls Online brought in the Warden class, which had enemies had access to it in the programming. It's just it wasn't player focused. So that was kind of interesting get our hands on that class and have a form of nature magic to ourselves, on the player side of things as well.
Yeah. Nature magic is cool. It doesn't mean that it's not as important or powerful.
It's just different.
It's just different. Yeah. And in some ways it's a little bit more tied to the formative nature of the world, like the earth bones and things like that. There's some connection there. Another connection that they have is often to the Daedra, which is another reason why some of the more formalized societies probably think that they're wild and uncontrollable. Many clans worship Hircine, That's probably the most likely of the Daedric princes that you would find the Reachmen worshiping. On top of their warrior ranks, commonly they commonly commune with Hircine so that they may ritualistically replace their hearts with poisoned briars, allowing them to become atrocities known as briar hearts, which Lotus is going to talk a little bit.
Yeah, those it's such a cool concept for an enemy. And in ESO, when you're in the Daggerfall Covenant exploring some of the Reach threat that's kind of flooding throughout the region, you're in Stormhold, you're in High Rock, you're in the areas on, I guess, more on the western side of the situation from where we were originally discussing in Skyrim, but the eastern side of, High Rock and everything like that, you're getting a lot of their influence around the region. And you actually get to see the formation of some of their zombie type creatures and the Briarhearts, where they're just like essentially being grown as they're sacrificed, their bodies are thrown there, and then the magic what they're doing is cast, and the vines are like basically forming into these former people and turning them into these creations and stuff like that. It's very cool. It's if you were to play ESO, it's along the Daggerfall Covenant main storyline. You encounter quite a bit of reach magic and hedge magic of them spawning some of their creations. Yeah,
I like that part of the campaign. It's a lot of fun. Yep. The other thing is that some of the new stuff that you play through in the most recent expansion has a lot of that similar kind of feel to the magic.
Yes, it does.
The vines, the earth connection to things, but the corruption of the earth at the same time. Yep. That all of that is still very connected to this, which makes sense from a story standpoint that we're going to dig into a little bit more of what's actually behind everything that's going on in Skyrim during these expansions.
Right, because I mean, one of the expansions is literally named after Harrowstorm, which Harrowstorms are a form of hedge magic, it seems, because that in and of itself, that's with the reliquaries, which I actually happen to have one, which we can use as a visual prop since we happen to be.
Oh yeah.
So I've got one of these, which for anybody not on the video, it is it's like an urn or a jar, which
you can do like Foley effects with it. You could probably does the top open up? Can you put it in front of your mic?
It does. Hold on.
This is great. Oh, the red magic stuff came out.
There it is. That's
Run.
IRL. That's congratulations.
People are being turned into zombies and things.
Yep.
Oh no.
You got to see the extent of my ability to RP right there. One whooshing sound effect. So like those things, the dungeons, you get to first find out about collecting them, and then as you go into the expansion, without just blatantly spoiling stuff because it's still somewhat relevant, the world events or the incursions that you have just popping up are those same reliquaries being controlled by witches, like the Witch's Coven, and them trying to collect souls for the soul harvest, which is again creepy sounding, and
creepy stuff.
So it's more of their hedge magic. So personally, I love those. I think they're super fun to play if you haven't actually tried them or played the Greymoor expansion of ESO.
Yeah. That's in fact, when you held that up, the urn looks really cool. There's a little bit of like the game player in me that got a little nervous. Like, oh crap, what are those?
So on the flip side too, the actual prop that I have, it weighs a comical amount for being like a resin thing.
It looks solid. Yeah.
You could probably take out an intruder with that prop.
Someone break into your house and you like smash it over their head.
Reach for the reliquary, you smash it on them, which immediately starts a Harrowstorm, and everything goes downhill from there.
Yeah. So, if you guys haven't played this stuff in ESO, I recommend going and checking it out. Here's one of the reasons why I love Elder Scrolls Online. It meets a lot of different needs, but when it comes from a lore perspective, I know there are people out there, and we talked kind of about this a little bit in the last episode, where they're like, oh, it's new stuff, it breaks the lore or whatever. they're just digging more and more into some of the details that we don't get to see in other games. And I love that. I love being able to go, okay, who are these Reachmen? What are they doing? What's their motivation? What were they doing in the second era as opposed to the fourth era? Yeah, what is this Harrow Storm? How does the magic work? All of those things are very cool. And you dig into that stuff really, really well in the games. Even if you just play through the quest lines, you get so much of that stuff, even without reading the books. It's just, I don't know. It's just so good just from a lore perspective.
Yeah.
So there's just kind of to put this out there before we get deeper into this, there is a ton of stuff about the people in this region, about things that went on during the histories, about the Forsworn and who they evolved from, those kinds of things. And we're going to have to do a second episode in order to do this all justice. If we cram this all into one episode, we're not going to get all the way through it. So to kind of finish up our discussion on this, since we're already up 20 something minutes into this, let's talk a little bit about their history. They, and I'm just going to read the passage here. Let me pull it up. A little bit about their early society and Longhouse emperors, and kind of just moving through time a little bit. I'll give you kind of a sense of how this went. Following the collapse of the First Empire of the Nords, the Western Reach was retaken by the Aldmeri, who slaughtered the majority of the Nord colonists. As a result, this is all the way back in like the First Era. As a result, the Nord ancestry of the Reachmen is comparatively weak. Originally, they came from the Bretons, if you remember. And in fact, they actually came from a very specific group, which we'll talk about on the next episode. The proximity of Reachman settlements to Orcish villages meant that the Reachmen frequently traded goods and customs with their mountain neighbors, and it's partly from the Orcs that the Reachmen learned to use hedge magic. This is some of the origin of this for their culture. High King Olaf One-Eye later reconquered the Reach for Skyrim at some point during his reign between the First Era 420, and 452. Nice. Nice. Good old Olaf One-Eye also had another nickname. It was Olaf Leaf Eater or something like that. Leaf Smoker. Things went on. There are some other things to talk about during the First Era. There's some information about the legend of Red Eagle, if you remember that in Skyrim. That was a ancient tale from Reach folklore that suggested that sometime during the Alessian Empire, the Reach was ruled by 10 kings, and that no men were free. Though men were free, the people were scattered and warred amongst themselves. The legend also makes reference to the Reachmen's reverence of the ancient and venerable Hagravens. So these cultural bits go all the way back to the First Era. They're very much ingrained in the people. By the Second Era, we have the Longhouse Emperors section of the history. During the 6th century of the Second Era, the Reachmen seem to have grown particularly powerful, eventually leading to the foundation of a Reachman dynasty in Cyrodiil, known as the Longhouse Emperors. We'll touch on that a little bit more on the next episode. And then by the events of Elder Scrolls Online, we have certain other events that happen in the games, which we can talk about more later. And all of this is to say that they, for the majority of their history, were downplayed. They were seen as adversaries with the empires, whether it's the Cyrodiilians, the Alessians, or the Nordic emperors, the Nordic, whether it's Tiber Septim or whoever. They generally were considered adversaries and people to take their stuff and try to get rid of them because they're a nuisance. And we talked about that very early on in the episode. During the Fourth Era, we have the Forsworn Uprising, which is what happens during Skyrim. In the Fourth Era, 174, during the Great War, when the Empire did not have the resources available to maintain the outer provinces. Remember the events of Skyrim? They were dealing with the Thalmor and the other things that were going on. The conflict in Skyrim between who were they? What were the guys called? The guys who wore the blue.
The Imperials? Stormcloaks?
The Stormcloaks. The Stormcloaks
I was
were
gonna say,
uprising against the Imperials.
Which side do you need? Yeah, Stormcloaks.
Right. The Stormcloaks were uprising against the Imperials, so they were being pulled in a lot of directions. So it makes sense that they didn't have the forces to kind of hold down the Reachmen anymore. A group of Reachmen led by Madanak, who would become their king, commenced what would later be known as the Forsworn Uprising, gaining control of the Reach and creating an independent kingdom. According to Arianus, I don't know how to pronounce that one.
I'm not sure how you'd pronounce pronunciation of some of these things is not my strong point.
I think it's Arianus Arius, which is a great name. They administered the kingdom relatively peacefully, with only a few of the harshest Nord landowners put to death. After 2 years, their experiment with independence seemed largely successful, and the leaders of the Reachmen were beginning the process of seeking recognition from the Empire. However, in the Fourth Era 176, desperate to retake the Reach, and with no Imperial legions available due to the Great War, Hrolfr enlisted the aid of a Nord militia led by none other than Ulfric Stormcloak to retake the Reach by promising them free worship of Talos. If you've played Skyrim, you know who Ulfric is. He was the one who was trying to be the king, who you're in the cart with at the beginning, and he's gagged so he can't shout. Yep, that Ulfric. In that year, the Nord militia successfully drove the Reachmen from the city of Markarth, and reclaimed the Reach. The survivors of the uprising fled into the wilds of the Reach and became known as the Forsworn. So when you are playing Skyrim and you're coming up against the Forsworn and they are pissed off at everybody, this is why. Because they had established their own society. They were looking to be recognized by the Empire as a free independent group, a free independent region, and everything fell apart. And they were sent out into the wilds. And so and that was the thing. When I played through these games, I didn't have a sense of this is the history underlying all of this. I was like, who are these crazy people who just live out in the wild? You know, I'm like, oh, okay, maybe they're pissed off at the Nords for some reason. And they're these crazy wild people, I guess. Right.
But there's actually a lot of background to it. So.
Yeah. I'm going to go through the next paragraph because this is interesting too. Driven from Markarth, the Forsworn spread across the Reach, fortifying any defensible spot they could find. In the wilds, the Forsworn function as a terrorist organization. That's how we get to know them, right? They are comprised of a series of cells, usually led by Hagraven matrons or undead Briarhearts, with their main tactics being caravan raids and attacking and outlying settlements. The ongoing dispute between consternation for those Reachmen who were not allied with the Forsworn. Native landowners were frequently under duress by both the Nords and the Forsworn, each party thinking the individual was working for the other. Many Reachmen also lamented that so many of their friends and loved ones were fighting and dying in service of a long lost cause. So that's as far as we get in the history of the Reachmen. And they've managed to survive that whole time. They've managed to be oppressed that whole time and still maintain their cultural identity, which is really, really cool. So did you have something else you wanted to talk about with the Briarhearts?
So the Briarhearts to me are one of my favorite, creatures, I guess. They're not even people at this point because they've been so mutated and stuff. But one of my favorite little, Easter eggs, tricks, whatever you want to call it, is if you are ever playing the Elder Scrolls V Skyrim, one really neat thing that the game never really overtly tells you that you can do is if you were to sneak up on a Briarheart that is unaware of your existence at the moment, preferably be good at sneaking, which I'm usually not. But you can pickpocket a Briarheart and remove their heart from their inventory. It's considered an inventory item because it's also an alchemical ingredient in Skyrim. And if you remove that heart, that's that powers the reanimated husk, I guess you'd call it, of a Briarheart, and it will immediately kill the enemy regardless of what level it is, and it does it completely silently. He'll just slump over and that's they just lump over and they're all done. Yeah. It's ragdoll physics galore, which I just thought was so cool because the same way that the Dwemer stuff is always powered by soul gems and things like that. It's kind of neat that these are programmed this like in a way that it's like, oh, well, if you remove its life source or power source, it basically just powers down, because that's how it would work. Since if you actually get a good look at them, they're strapped in there with just leather straps, and it's like it's still exposed. It's pretty nasty looking, but Briarhearts are such a creepy and unique enemy as far as I'm concerned in the series. And kind of along the lines of what you said, I was trying to browse the exact name of the book that it's in, but I can't find it off the top of my head. One of the overarching themes with all Forsworn was during the time of Skyrim, there was a lot of thought that they were just brigands and like thieves and like, oh, they just rob people on the road. But the biggest factor that showed that that was not the case was the fact that often when they would raid, many times they would leave the gold or supply. Like that clearly wasn't the focus, despite the fact that that was trying to be showed. It's like, no, you shouldn't trust these guys. They have no further agenda. They're all just, whack jobs.
They're crazy.
Yeah. Where it seemed like it very quickly, if you looked past the surface value of it, you would realize they weren't looking out for themselves, because many times they would be willing to die rather than be captured, which is generally not what you're going to be doing if all you're looking for is self-gain. And leaving behind the spoils of a raid doesn't really make a lot of sense if that's your end goal as well. So there was always hints that there was more to them. It's just you had to kind of look for it, which I thought was an interesting twist, since not only did the game do that in Skyrim specifically, but that's almost what it was like in game, as well as like breaking the fourth wall and playing the game.
Yeah. They are really cool. And we're going to get a little bit more into this. I want to talk at the end of the episode, once we get through the middle, a little bit about Markarth. I want to pick your brain a little bit about some of your memories of playing in that region and in the city, because I'm excited about that coming to Elder Scrolls Online.
Oh yeah.
But and then I also want to reference some of the things people have said in chat too. So we're going to get into this a little bit more. So stay tuned for that stuff. Let's jump into the middle of the episode so we can get back to seeing things in a little bit.
The skies are marked with numberless sparks, each a fire, and every one a sign.
Did you know using your browser in incognito mode doesn't actually protect your privacy? Take back your privacy with IPVanish VPN. Just one tap and all your data, passwords, communications, browsing history, and more will be instantly protected. IPVanish makes you virtually invisible online. Use IPVanish on all your devices, anytime you go online at home, and especially on public Wi-Fi. Get IPVanish now for 70% off a yearly plan with this exclusive offer at ipvanish.com/audio.
Have you ever wanted to learn more about geography without sitting through a snoozio lecture? Geography Arcade is a weekly podcast all about your favorite video games and their geographic lessons, inspirations, and even some minor analysis. Some may say analysis, boo! Well, we're gonna learn and have fun while we talk about Pokemon, Elder Scrolls, and much more. Come join the adventure at Geography Arcade on your favorite podcatcher and YouTube.
So, as usual, the show is brought to you by our patrons at patreon.com/Elder Scrolls Lorecast. And thank you to all of our patrons. We are quickly approaching the end of the month. Today is the 17th, which means that we have one more episode before we have another patron end of the month call. So if you are interested in joining me and Lotus on the show and being able to chat with us about Elder Scrolls, then check out the Patreon, because tier 4 patrons get to join us for those episodes every month. Also, thank you to all of our other patrons for your support of the show as well. You can get ad-free episodes and a whole bunch of other things. So go check that out. Also, our shows are brought to you by the sponsors of the shows on the Robots Radio Network. And get this, we have a new sponsor, Lotus. You may have heard me talk about Loot Crate and Greenman Gaming and Gamefly and NordVPN. We've got deals for all of those. Check the links in the show notes. But specifically, we now have audiobooks.com as a sponsor.
There you go.
Which I am super excited about because I'm going to pull it up right now. Audiobooks.com. They have tons of books. I've been looking up different books, and every time I look one up on here, they have it. I'm specifically looking up Elder Scrolls. Yeah,
I was going to say, tell me they have the Infernal City and Lord of Souls. 1 credit each.
These are brilliant. I've listened to them. I've actually, these versions of the books I've listened to as, audiobooks while commuting. They're very well done. The voice acting is awesome. And you can get these for free. All you have to do is just open up the show notes, click the link, and you will get 3 books in your first month for free. So
there you
get
go.
These 2 books and something else. And it includes 2 VIP books. So even if these are VIP books according to their rankings, you still get them. You can get both of these books and just listen to them like right now. So go check that out. Super cool stuff. There's a bunch of other things as well. You can get on here. One of the other things I would highly recommend is the Ice and Fire, the Song of Ice and Fire series, Game of Thrones, those
nice.
things. The books. I mean, if you liked the series, not the last 2 seasons, if you liked
specifically
the show,
the last.
if you liked the show and you haven't read the books are dense, and listening to them as audiobooks is an amazing experience. Roy Deltrice is the guy who does the voice acting for those books, and he's this old, gruff kind of deep voice kind of guy. But he does different voices for the different characters. He is amazing. Like his voice is like butter in your ears, which sounds disgusting. But just imagine that your ears had taste buds.
Nonsense.
Oh God,
ear butter, a perfect selling point. You really crushed
getting
it.
worse as I go. Anyway, go check out the books. Click the link in the show notes. Go check out the books.
Yep,
I think
I've listened to both the Lord of Souls and
Infernal City.
Infernal City, thank you, on the audiobooks. I am not a huge reader, like just sit down and I'm going to read a novel or something like that. But yeah, I got the audio versions of both of those as well, and they're pretty good stories. Especially if you already like this material, it's really good supplementary material. I don't think you're going to draw somebody into the series fresh. Right. Like, don't suggest this to somebody to try to get them into the series, but if you already like the series, there's a lot to these books that honestly fits into many of the games that is overlooked or only nodded to. And except for the small portion of us who have actually read or listened to the books, you kind of miss it. And they're pretty integral to a lot of things. So,
there's connection between all sorts of different lore stuff in these books. And one of the main characters is an Argonian. Yep. And there's some really cool. His perspective, the way he talks, even the way the voice actor does his voice, but his perspective, his culture, the way he interacts with other people, his connection to the trees, the Hist, all of that stuff.
His discussion of him really becoming part of this is getting into quite a tangent on this, but these books are great. Cool I really enjoyed them.
It's really cool stuff.
Yeah, it's very cool to have them try to do the perspective of that as well. There's some Clavicus violin. There's just a lot there in those books.
Daedra, the Daedric Society. There's a lot of
living
insight.
on Umbriel.
Yeah, living on Umbriel and what the Dremora are actually like and how they interact with each other in their own society. A lot of the stuff that you don't actually get in the games is in the books. So anyway, go check that out. You guys can get some free books. You know where to look. And let's move on to the rest of the show.
Yes, you're entirely brilliant. Conquering madness and all that. Blah, 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 blah.
So that was a fun little excursion there. Let's talk about Markarth. I want to actually, before we get into Markarth, I want to reference a little bit about what some people said in the chat here. Fragile Shark says, and it makes sense that the Thalmor Empire would want to keep the Reachmen under control if it can cause Skyrim to expend resources on the problem, which makes
Very
sense.
much.
The enemy of my enemy is my friend kind of concept. Like,
yes,
if we can incite insurrection from underneath the Nords, then that works out for us. That kind of thing.
Which exactly, and Thalmor are known for slow playing everyone against each other and biding their time. And it's like, as is, they were already kind of nudging. To be fair, I mean, depending upon how you want to view the situation, nudging Ulfric Stormcloak along because of his kind of bruised ego from his previous failures, which we won't get too into, as like, oh, well, hey, Skyrim's, you've been shunned and all of this. And it comes across very straightforward that it's like, well, the Thalmor don't like Talos. Which, okay, that's true. But at the same time, if they can also sow equal seeds with, okay, this needs to be imperial law, but then at the same time nudging Ulfric forward, we're like, yeah, you're not going to stand for this, are you?
Right.
Well, now these two are fighting each other and they don't need to waste resources on the situation. Factor in the elusive wild card that we brought up earlier of the Reachmen and the Forsworn. It's like, okay, well, now you have three groups. I mean, they're pretty indifferent, it seems like, to the Reachmen themselves. They don't necessarily have an agenda overtly against them, but it's like, okay, well, if we push you into the equation, now there are two sides we don't want to deal with, and one side we're indifferent to, all fighting amongst themselves while we consolidate our power.
Yeah. Yeah. Now that's it's like playing Battlegrounds, and you realize that the two other factions are duking it off in the middle, and you're like, well, I'm just going to sneak around the edges and take all the stuff that I want while they are busy fighting each other. Yep. It just makes sense. It's, if you can create a third faction that, even if they are obviously underpowered, the Reachmen were never going to take down the Nords. They just weren't. They didn't have the strength to do it, but they could be a really good distraction.
Yep.
And a problem, and create fear among the Nords in that area to be worrying about this while they're not paying attention to the other things that are going on. So it makes a lot of sense. If you have any other questions while we're finishing up this episode, feel free to put them in chat. I would love to see your questions, or just some of your comments, some of your thoughts on some of this stuff. Now, to wrap this episode up, this region is specifically known for Markarth. That's basically the capital city of the region. And there's a lot going on in Markarth. As a reminder, Markarth was the city that was built on top of the Dwemer ruins. Directly there in the city. Like, the city itself is Dwemer ruins with Nordic buildings just kind of built into it.
Yes.
And it's really cool.
It's
looking.
A very vertical city as well. Kind of built around, like you said, it's the Nordic ruins built into the Dwemer ruins in the walls. But the way that the whole city is constructed around the waterfalls makes it really unique too. Yeah.
Yeah. So do you have any specific memories of dealing with Reachmen other than the Briarheart stuff?
Yeah, the Briarheart stuff I love. So Markarth is, to be fair, that's probably my absolute favorite of the cities. I like a lot of them. They're all kind of memorable in their own way, but Markarth is just very, very unique in its construction, and it's, I don't know, it's oddly creepy because of just some of the stuff you deal with in Skyrim as well. The giant crypts where you can get yourself involved with the Namira's quest line, and I mean, I guess it's not a huge deal if we spoil some stuff from a game from 2011 and 2020.
Right. 9-year-old game.
Yeah, I was going to say, I feel like if you haven't played this quest line yet, you really kind of out of the realm of safety. What is there though is you get this whole cannibal cult thing involved with the New Era thing, and one of the quotes that I just always find very funny is the meat vendor out front, who is part of this conspiracy, is I just love that he's always saying the bloodiest cuts of meat in the Reach, and I'm just like, oh, that is not a selling point, dude. Like, what are you doing? No. And yes, the Mace of Molag Bal quest is also in Markarth. That is correct, Fragile
Is
Shark.
it? I couldn't recall. I saw the comment. I was like, where was that? Yeah. That's awesome. That's awesome. Isn't the haunted building in Markarth?
That's part of the
beginning of the maze.
That is
okay.
Yes. Yep. Yeah. That's the place.
Yes. Oh man, that was great. I remember coming across that the first time and being like, wait a minute, something's wrong here. Just like,
yep,
there's something going on.
Yeah, that's where you have to bring in you have to find yourself a priest.
Yeah. Man, Skyrim's such a good game. So here's my other question, kind of follow up on this stuff. Because we all have such memories of this area, what do you think it's going to be like 2 eras earlier? What things are going to be the same? What do you think is going to be different? And do you think we're going to actually get to explore some of the same parts, bits and pieces of the city, even like underneath the city, you know, like the dungeony parts of it?
I would hope that the city itself and some of the surrounding wildlands will be there. The biggest question I have, because it's a decent sized region and this is a zone DLC. It's not a chapter expansion, so it doesn't need to be nearly as immense as the full chapter. It's an addition. So you'll get the overland, you'll get the city itself. With how big they've made it apparent that Blackreach is, I'm very curious if it will have any more of Blackreach underneath, because the Dwemer Ruins, where Calcelmo has his excavation, I guess you'd call it, going on during the time of Skyrim, that is more Dwemer Ruins, which coincide with Blackreach. So you might end up finding another entrance down to Blackreach with some type of something involved with that, since it's such an integral part of the story.
Do you think that's going to be the main Markarth itself and the Dwemer Ruins and then maybe Blackreach? Do you think that's going to be the main, I don't know, dungeon of the map? You think that's where we're going to descend into in order to continue the storyline?
I'm curious if sometimes we get an arena, is what it's called, which is like a challenge section with the I can't think of the word that I literally just said, the zone DLC.
Yeah, zone DLC. Yeah.
So it seems like there's potential that if they did want to do an arena, they could do something like that below the city. But I'm curious how far out into the surrounding wildlands we're going to get as well. Is it just Markarth, or how much is it going to go throughout the Reach is my real question. I'll be very curious to see, and I believe it's 2 days from today. I believe it's the 19th. So
yeah, by the time this is up for everybody, this will be out tomorrow for patrons, and then the day after that. So tomorrow being Friday, the day after being Saturday, for everyone else. Yeah, cool. Also, if you guys want to check out the actual video version of this, when I've been trying to incorporate more pictures like the map behind me and answer some of the questions in the feed and those kinds of things. If you want to check out the video version of this, it'll be up on YouTube at the Robots Radio YouTube channel, which is in the links underneath the show notes. So cool. Any other last thoughts, Lotus, before we move on?
No, I think that pretty much a solid foundation and overview of the Reach and its inhabitants, so to speak.
Yeah, next time on the next episode, we're actually going to get into some of the Reachmen clans, their connection to Dami House, the Minotaur who shows up in Elder Scrolls Online, and the Keptu, which may be a word or a name of a group of people that you are not familiar with. This is actually some of the older parts of the connection of the Reachmen to their history. So we kind of covered an overview and then also a lot of the stuff that happened that we know about in the Fourth Era, but we're going to go all the way back to the beginning again and dig a little bit deeper. So I'm excited for that. Thank you for joining me again, Lotus. This has been super fun.
My
pleasure. Do you have anything cool going on? You have any streams happening lately where you're raising more money for charity or anything?
So we will have an exact schedule, but it's looking like in the situation for my Extra Life marathon that I'm involved with, I believe our tentative date will be October 17th. I'll have an official announcement definitely by next show. We're just kind of ironing out the details as to how long we're going to be able to marathon this year. Last year we did 38 hours, I believe it was, between me and Ark.
I remember this. Yes, I jumped in Wait. No, I jumped in when you were forced to play first person.
Oh dear Lord. Yes. I had the
That's
first
when
person Imperial City. And then when I went in the other room, to grab a drink or something like that, my wonderful friends decided to take off my real gear and attach white gear that was worth more money and gave me no bonus stats. And then I had to fight the simulacrum in the Imperial City sewers.
Oh my God.
I thought I was just very bad from being so sleep deprived until afterwards I realized I was like, where is all my gear?
Yes, I remember this. And you were like, you had to play first person perspective.
Yes.
And you were like, oh my God, this is making me sick. Yeah. Yes.
I like to quest in first person, but man, when everything's CC throwing you around, it is rough on the equilibrium.
Oh yeah, totally. Oh man. Yep. Yeah. Is Tales doing anything cool? If you guys listen to this show and you don't know about Tales of Tamriel, I don't know what to tell you. They've been around a lot longer than the show. Go check them out.
Yeah.
So,
I was going to say we've been doing our normal thing, and like I said, we'll have fine details by next show on the exacts of what we'll be doing for the charity event, which all goes to, for anybody that doesn't know what Extra Life is, it helps support families in need and children who cannot afford to get the medical care that they require. So it covers the costs of that to make sure that they are provided the care they need and no one ends up getting turned away, which is a very, very awesome cause that I've been proud to be part of helping for the past 8 years at this point. So
that's awesome. That's really, really cool. Ishi Streams notes here, there's a cool thing happening tomorrow with the other two Tales hosts.
Yes. Also, that's a very good point. So our Patreons over at Tales for the champion tier get to make requests. And tomorrow, one of the requests is Arcaneer, one of the other hosts, will be tanking on North America. He is from Turkey. So that is not great for his connection.
Right.
And yes. The request is Kinara, the Patreon in question, is subjecting them to veteran Moonhunter Keep, I believe hard mode on the North American server, which is going to be quite an experience in the struggle bus realm. So,
is Hyper Pixie playing too? Or
yes, she is. I assume she'll be healing, since that's her main role. Right. Yeah, it should be interesting to be sure.
That's awesome. Tune in for that too if you guys are listening to this before that happens. Cool. Awesome, man. Let's see. Do I have anything else going on? I've still been streaming at twitch.tv/robotsradio. I've been playing more Fallout than I have Elder Scrolls Online, but I definitely need to jump back into Elder Scrolls Online. There still are some quests that I haven't finished in the Greymoor expansion, some of the side quests. I was putting out gameplay episodes where you guys could follow through my role-playing adventures. I'm sure some of you guys have been listening to them. In fact, I have the data in order to see that you've been listening to them. I know a lot of you guys enjoy them. In fact, some people have written me saying, like, where are they? Where are the new ones? I ran out of content and I just ran out of quests and I need to go just do more. I need to make more. So sorry, other things have come up and playing through the quest lines hasn't been the main priority. But I hope to do that again soon. I might just have to stock a bunch of those. I do have kind of this internal want to go through all of the quests and document all of them through role playing as Sir Robots throughout the entire game. But of course, that would take a very long time. So and there's lots of other games coming out and things. So my attention keeps getting thrown from one place to another, but hopefully I can get back into that. And if you are interested in that content and it isn't being put out in audio version yet, I'd love for you to just come hang out in the stream, because you might catch me doing some of it before it turns into audio content later. So you're welcome to do that as well. And just like Lotus, all of my stream support is going to charity right now. Up until the election, everything that I raise on Twitch is going to support Represent.us, which fights corruption in the government, which benefits everybody except for the people being corrupt. But screw those guys.
Nobody cares. Yeah, nobody cares about them.
Yeah, no, those people can go, I don't know.
If you're already corrupt, nobody cares. You don't. If
you are corrupt in our government, then just get the freaking out of the government. Like, we want our government back. So, yeah. Anyway, that's what's going on. Thank you for tuning in as usual, everybody. It's good to see you guys here in chat, and thank you for listening. And until next time, I don't know, don't cut your chest open and put a alternate heart in there because somebody might pickpocket it and then you'll just slump over and die. That's my advice to you. All right, everybody. Talk to you guys later. Have a good one.
Bye.
See ya. Thanks for listening to the Elder Scrolls Lorecast. All sounds and music are owned by Bethesda Softworks or ZeniMax Studios, and no copyright infringement is intended. If you have something you'd like to contribute to the show, please reach out to us at elderscrollslorecast@gmail.com or on Twitter @ESO Lorecast. If you'd like to help support the show, check out the rewards you can get at patreon.com/Elder Scrolls Lorecast. I really appreciate you listening, and I'd love to hear from you soon. And thanks to our patrons for support, especially our Tier 5 patrons, including Noodle Al Dente.
You've been listening to a Robots Radio podcast. Smart shows for interesting people. Check out all the shows at robotsradio.net.
Ahoy there, ye landlubbers! Avast! My name is Captain Logan, and I'll be your guide out on the Sea of Thieves. If you love the idea of stealing treasure, cutting down cursed skeletons, fighting off krakens, and raiding forts filled to the brim with shinies, then Sea of Thieves is the game for you. Join me each week as I dive into the news and bring back the nuggets of information that any sailor worth their weight in salt would desire. You don't have to be a pirate legend to gain access to my podcast. Just search for Keelhauled, a Sea of Thieves podcast in your podcast app of choice, or head over to robotsradio.net or captainlogan.podbeam.com and get ready to set sail for adventure. Arr.
My name is Brian Burton. It's been 26 years since the bombs fell. And since I've left the vault, I've been trying to rebuild. This isn't the Appalachia that I remember. There's so much more to everything going on. And I promise to find the answer. So if you're out there, if you're listening, just hone in on these coordinates. Remember, there's a place for you at the end. Omega.
The Omega Broadcast Fallout Story is available on iTunes, Spotify, and many great podcasting sources.
Hey, all you wannabe raiders out there, it's your bestest girl Rose coming at ya from top of the world. Now it's time for your local traffic and weather. Well, looks like almost everyone's still dead, so traffic is at a standstill. And now a word from our sponsor, because they're totally not bribing me with massive amounts of chems or anything. Seems as the stuffed shirts are back at the White Springs playing games with that total loser Modus. But hey, if that's your thing, whatever. So if all you squares wanted to hear more totally sort of, but maybe not boring stories about rebuilding Appalachia and being all goody two-shoes, definitely not raiders, check out this thing they call a podcast, the Modus Files, whatever that's supposed to be, on Spotify, iTunes, and wherever else you listen to those things. Double ugh, they are not paying me enough for this. Till later, this is Rose. Raiders rule!